Sign up at the end of this review to get my personal gear list.
That was beautiful. That was fun.
That was cool. You start.
All right, good. I'm Paul Reed Smith. He's going to introduce himself, but this time slower so you can understand what his real name is.
This is Tony Polecastro.
That's
from
much
the Acoustic
better.
letter.
Polecastro.
And
it's got a lot of syllables in there.
It does.
That's
you
good.
Can't,
I got that part.
You know, when you're young, you get used to just rushing through it
I'm
because you have to
Paul
learn how to
Smith.
spell
I got
it.
arrested. They didn't believe me. The reason I put the read in was because when they said, "Son, what's your name?" I said, "Paul Smith." They said, "Yeah, you made that up." I said, "No, wait a minute. That's my name." Argued with them for half an hour. I put the read in, swear to God, because nobody believed it was my name. On the original card, it said Paul Reed Smith Luthier. I got a check from Peter Frampton, made it to Paul Luthier. That was the end of that.
That is awesome.
It's a true story.
So we've been talking about your acoustic guitars, and we've been talking about the harmonic richness and this
the
double
volume.
diaphragm idea.
No, it's a single diaphragm.
Single di, rather.
I didn't come up with it.
Whoa.
I didn't come up with it. That's Antonio Torres.
Right.
Look, let me tell you the experience I had in front of this little guitar. It was 3 inches deep. It was made of maple on the backs and the sides, and it was astoundingly loud. It had more bass than any guitar I'd ever heard. Little teeny maple guitars like that don't have that kind of bass, right? And I couldn't breathe. I was like, that's the best musical instrument I ever heard. It turns out that he had the top just going berserk and the back and the sides were locked up. When I looked inside, it was full of braces, which didn't make any sense. You would think it wouldn't have any braces in it, and it was loaded with braces. And so to me, he's the one that said, make it a single diaphragmed instrument, not a double diaphragmed instrument. When you say that, double diaphragmed instrument, you've got sound coming out of the back, sound coming out of the top. You don't get energy from nothing, so whatever's coming out of the back ain't coming out of the top. Right. So that's when you say single, double diaphragmed instrument. It's really our term to try to describe what we learned when we x-rayed that Taurus.
Nice. So you mentioned the bracing. You said it was full of braces. Can you tell us a little bit about your bracing pattern and other tonal impacts that you've kind of made happen with this instrument? Sure.
The back has big mahogany braces on it, not small spruce braces. And I mean, that's the back of it. The top has an X brace and fan braces. It turns out that Michael Hedges' guitar was braced that way with an X brace to keep the top from lifting up and the fan braces. And as the story goes that I've read, when he played the guitar, he did everything in his power to get his hands on it, and that was his instrument from then on. We didn't know that when we decided to fan brace and X brace the first prototypes.
Right.
But we didn't come up with the idea. It was come up with over time. But in terms of saying to the market, this is important, that we're going to brace these guitars this way, was risky because there are 3 stages to anything new. Everybody's venomously opposed to it, that's stage 1. Everybody's pretty much against it, that's stage 2, and it's the accepted norm, that's stage 3. We're just starting to enter stage 3. We've made 1,500 of these instruments. The endorsers at this point are Martin Simpson, Tony McManus, Ricky Skaggs, Cody Kilby, now John Hyatt, Bonnie Raitt has one. Ray LaMontagne's got a bunch of them. There's a lot of people that have them, and they love them, and they want to know why they sound so good. So I thought maybe we could go into this video about what else is going on.
Please, yeah.
So, can you imagine that you would want as little water in the wood as possible?
I would think so.
Okay, so kiln drying used to be 7% water. Now it's more like 10 or 12% water, but I think that the water content of the wood needs to be as low as it can be while it still sits in a humidified environment. Second, you would think the resins in the wood should be crystallized, not watery, right? So you've got to heat the wood up in such a way that all those resins crystallize. The next thing is you wouldn't want to coat the guitar with a rubbery paint. That would shut it up, right? So you need some sort of crystalline finish, and this thing is coated with really thin crystalline nitro. actually we're making nylon strings exactly like he braced, and we're putting nitro on them, which is sacrilegious, but the guys that are getting them love them. So the other thing is that some of the instruments have truss rods. These both have truss rods. Some of the more expensive ones have a big piece of high modulus graphite in the neck so it won't bend, which I think they sounds beautiful either way.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I mean, it's not an accident. It's a physics concept where you want this to be vibrating and loose, and you want this to be tight so all the sound comes out. This is a port. You actually can change the shape of this with a CD by sliding a CD across the hole, and the note changes. And that's what it.
Awesome.
I mean, so you can. If there's a piece of cardboard around here, we could do it. It doesn't really matter. People can get a guitar and experiment with it. As you slide a CD across the hole, the note changes coming out of it. So that's a port. It's not really a way for the sound to get out. It's a way for a bass note to be changed. And you want this thing to be loose. And just... So here's the down part. If the strings are dead, you're not going to get high end out of the instrument because the high end isn't coming from the instrument. It's coming from the strings vibrating. So you got to be careful to make sure and put new strings on the guitars. Of all weird things, Tommy Emmanuel's playing in this town tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
He changes his strings every day. All these guys are changing strings every day. Yeah.
I believe it. I personally love fresh string sound.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's got a cut. It's got a thing.
And these are EXPs that are coated, and still there's a little bit of deadening that happens. I
Sure.
like... And this thing's just going to keep ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. I'm barely touching it. What's interesting is the high strings never go dead because they're not wound. I mean, sometimes you get so much dirt on them, you can go like that and
Yeah.
fall on the floor, which you've seen after a sweaty night, right?
It's true.
All right, so you got to start with a physics theory. You've got to brace it so that it holds together. In my opinion, you want a single diaphragmed instrument where this is the speaker and this is the cabinet. And then after that, there's a million little art forms that go on.
Yeah.
But you know, this is the goal. Very complicated harmonic content, and that's coming from the strings, and this guitar is amplifying those strings. One other point, you don't get energy from nothing, so the guitar will never be louder than the force that you're hitting the string with. So if you put 6 in, you want about 5.9 out. You'll never get 6.1 out. It's not possible. If God had added extra energy to an instrument, you would barely hit it and a train would go by. That's not the way it works. It's all physics. And these old guitar makers, these famous guys, they understood these concepts.
Yeah.
I'm convinced they absolutely knew what to do. I'll give you an example. The reason Stradivari violins sound good is because of the paint, right? The reason they sound good is because it had uric acid in the wood. The reason they said good is because there was more fungus in his shop than the other shops, or whatever. You've read all these articles, right?
It's true.
Does anybody say the following thing? The reason Stradivari violins sound good because he knew what he was doing? Oh, God, it pisses me off. These guys absolutely knew what they were doing. Don't think that the people at Gibson making L5s, right, and the people John, what was his name? Giaquisto, didn't know what he was doing. He did. He was an extraordinary guitar maker, right? I think I got his name right. It's D'Angelico.
Yes, that's it.
It was Giaquisto was his
apprentice or something.
Apprentice, yeah. So both of them, I mean, they're flat out good guitar makers.
Yeah.
So don't think for a second D'Angelico didn't know what he was doing. You pick up those instruments and you strum it and all the sounds erupting at it. It's because he knew what he was doing. It wasn't an accident, right?
It wasn't magical? The
Sure,
magic mushrooms?
What, do you do mushrooms? You're from Bozeman. You look like it. You go search the pig farm up here looking for this stuff?
I have a mushroom. No.
That's great. You're doing shrooms before your gigs. Is that what's going on?
Right now.
Why?
No.
Your eyes aren't dilated enough. I know more about this than I need to talk about. All right, look. But Guadagnini and Stradivari and Guarneri and all these guys, they absolutely knew what they were doing. Don't think Leo Fender. in his old shop and didn't know what he was doing making guitars. You don't come up with a Strat not knowing what you're doing.
Right,
You do.
right.
And he didn't play guitar. Think about that for a minute.
But you play.
I play. I don't
So,
know
so
how.
I got a question that's killing me because I'm very opinionated. I'm very opinionated about this, and I want to know.
You're being told by
what
the
your favorite
videographer.
tone
This
wood
is your last question.
I
You
know.
got that part.
I
Okay,
know.
go on.
Favorite tone
I
wood.
think we should open it up so we can have more of an answer.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should listen to him. Ask the question.
Okay.
Favorite tone wood pairing on an acoustic.
Well, on an acoustic, my favorite tone would be a piece of European or red spruce because the rest of it, you're making a cabinet out of. Now we're done.
That's controversial. The question that I was going to ask
Yeah.
you, and I did, and I need more.
All right, good.
I need your favorite tone wood combination.
Combination.
Yes.
Oh, that's not what you asked. You wanted one tone wood.
Oh. Poor phrasing of question.